Hiya, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
You want to go do a podcast?
Sure.
Jump in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Binging Barbie, a Barbie movie podcast. I'm your host, Jay, and I'm here with my co-host,
John.
And today we're going to be talking about the 2002 film Barbie as Rapunzel. This was released October 1st, 2002. It's the follow-up to the very first Barbie animated movie, Barbie and the Nutcracker. This movie is also directed by Owen Hurley, written by Elena Lesser and Cliff Ruby, with a soundtrack by Arnie Roth. And yeah, it tells the story of Barbie as Rapunzel.
It's continuing the trend started by the last movie by using classic fairy tales.
Yep, using a classic fairy tale that Disney had not yet made an adaptation to. Now, ironically enough, both this and the last movie, Disney did eventually make adaptations of those fairy tales. One more successful than the other.
Correct.
Their Rapunzel movie is quite well remembered.
Yes.
But yeah, quickly before we get into this episode, I'm a little bit sick, so if my voice sounds off, that might be why. I'm hoping through the magic of editing you won't notice too much of a difference. But anyway, let's dive right in. So, John, why don't you start us off with your thoughts on the movie?
I thought it was a huge improvement over the last one. Animation-wise, still the same time period. Still good, decent. But the story was much cleaner. It was easier to follow. There weren't a lot of moments that I felt were so unnecessary. The characters felt like they had something to achieve and weren't just there for comedic purposes. Unless you say the bunny, but that's another thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I enjoyed this a lot more. To the point where I was not writing a whole bunch of notes during this movie because I was just watching it.
Yeah, this one, I agree. It's a major improvement over the last one. Just leaps and bounds ahead. You can tell they learned a lot from the experience and kind of tried to improve in a lot of ways. So yeah, with that said, the basic concept of this podcast is we're going to go through 5 main categories and kind of give our thoughts on each, and then at the end we'll give our overall thoughts and score of the movie. So we're going to talk story, we're going to talk characters, animation, voice acting, and after last podcast we decided to switch out a category. So this episode we're going to be talking about the music instead of the writing.
Yeah, because the writing, we talked a lot during the story section, and so it was a bit redundant. And music is one of those things that is often forgotten about when people do reviews of this sort of thing. So I just thought we should try and at least mention something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, shall we dive right into this?
Let's dive.
Yeah, so the story this time around, Barbie is Rapunzel, and she's classic Rapunzel story. She's been locked in this, well, not in a tower in this one. It's a manor with her evil stepmother Gothel, who's very, very much a mixture of Rapunzel and Cinderella.
Yeah,
and her biggest joy in life is painting. That's kind of how she spends her days when she's not cleaning the manor.
This is also a story about Kelly. Well, again, all these movies seems to be about Barbie teaching Kelly something. Here, Kelly is not sure what to draw in art class or something, and so Barbie's trying to inspire her by teaching her that art is an inspiration or something. And so she tells this story that through this story, Rapunzel uses art to save the day.
Yeah, it's as vague of the messaging doesn't necessarily connect to the story.
It's more connected though.
Yeah. It's
than last ones.
It's a bit more connected, but yeah, it's not.
At least there's painting.
Yeah, that's they share a little bit in common. But yeah, she's trapped in this house, and she has two friends, a bunny and a dragon. The bunny, whose name is Hobby, doesn't really have anything to do, but the dragon Penelope is kind of the most important secondary character.
Yeah.
She's the daughter of the dragon
Big
who
old
serves, who serves Gothel, who's the evil stepmother in this movie. And this dragon, Hugo is his name. He holds his daughter to a very high standard, and she's kind of having trouble. She doesn't necessarily want to be a big scary dragon. She just likes hanging out with Rapunzel. So, and there's a lot of connections between her storyline and Rapunzel's storyline with sort of the parental relationship and the push and pull there. Luckily, Hugo has a better ending than Gothel.
Correct.
But yeah, I thought it's an addition to the Rapunzel story. A lot of the stuff in here is added, but it was interesting. But yeah, anyway, Rapunzel eventually paints this. Well, she escapes through a tunnel and goes out into the real world outside. And there's a town and a castle, and a prince shows up, though she doesn't know he's the prince.
Conveniently, the prince shows up and sees Barbie and falls in love.
Yep. Which that's what they always do in these movies. The prince always just kind of shows up. Then Rapunzel goes back home, and Gothel finds out about her journey and locks her in this tower, which she magically creates from one of the wings of the manor. It's a cool moment. And then I'm just now realizing, explaining this, there's a lot of stuff going on in this plot, because we haven't even talked about the magic hairbrush that becomes a paintbrush.
Yeah, that weird Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, then she paints a painting that's actually a portal. My sister and I were joking, this is really Barbie in Super Mario 64, the video game where Mario jumps through paintings.
Or what about that one Mickey Mouse video game for the Wii?
Yeah, the Epic Mickey. Yeah,
Epic Mickey.
Yeah, it's a common conceited video games, actually, the jumping through a painting to get to another world.
Yeah.
I wonder if there must be some literature or folklore connection there.
To painting?
Well, to paintings being portals to other worlds. But yeah, so Barbie goes through this painting, or Rapunzel goes through this painting.
Of course.
And that kind of becomes, she goes back and forth a few times. Gothel finds out again, and Gothel concocts this evil plan to pose as Rapunzel during this royal ball and sort of throw the kingdom into chaos. And of course, chaos ensues, but then Barbie comes in and saves the day, and turns out she's the princess from the rival kingdom who was stolen as a baby by Gothel, because Gothel was mad that the king of that kingdom wasn't in love with her.
Yeah, which means that Rapunzel is a Wilhelm.
Yeah. I wonder. Yeah, it's a lot of plot for a movie that for a kids movie. I think Nutcracker had very little plot going on. It was just, scenes of people crossing floating rocks.
Also very weak plot.
Yeah.
Well, this one is pretty strong.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here, and as much as I'm sort of sassing the complexity of it, I did enjoy it more than the Nutcracker quite a bit.
Yeah.
There's just a lot to like here. There's Gothel is a fun villain. We'll talk about her a bit more later.
Right.
Her magic spells are always fun, and there's this cool thing where she traps Rapunzel in the tower with a spell that specifically is for, I think the quote is, never release your prisoner with a lying heart.
Like, when she said that, I'm like, well, that's not going to hold Barbie. She's not lying. Did they forget about that? But then they didn't. And it was actually important. It's like, what? They're smart.
And that's like a common fairy tale thing of like the loophole in the spell that lets both the saves the hero and is the comeuppance for the villain.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love the poetic justice of the end where Gothel gets trapped by her own magic. It's very satisfying, given all that she's done throughout this movie.
It is. She's
Yeah.
gonna die up there.
Yep, she's gonna die up there. That's the implication. It's an interesting implication to be sure.
Yet they made a point that the otter still feeds her.
Yep, that's
somehow.
Yeah. Well, there's like tunnels throughout, or like little.
No, but still, like the otter was also a liar, wasn't he?
Oh, I mean, maybe. I don't remember specifically.
He
You
like
gotta
one.
you gotta have that though. So this is still a kids movie, and it's aimed at an even younger audience. Than,
I
like,
was hoping for that darn otter when she's like, "Bring me my tea." He's like, "Nah, I'm leaving," and then she's all by herself.
Yeah,
it's a dark ending, but you know.
Yeah, I think they also just wanted that scene with the otter at the end making the food.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
she's still a terrible person.
Yep.
I get trapped.
Yeah, and I do like this movie has actual character arcs.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest problem with the Nutcracker movie was there's no character arcs, but here Rapunzel has a bit of a character arc. It's not like much, but it is something. And this time around, she's connected to the story around her, where in the last movie, the Barbie character was kind of on the sidelines, didn't really have. I mean, she liked the magical world, but it wasn't her magical world. Whereas here, it's all about who's her parents, where does she belong? Mm-hmm. Is she really Gothel's kid, or what's going on here? So that just makes the story, you have more investment in it because your protagonist is more invested in it.
Right.
And then Penelope has a huge arc where she's learning to find her strength and be her own kind of dragon. And then Hugo, the elder dragon, also has a bit of an arc, learning to both accept his daughter and maybe not follow the evil magic lady named Gothel.
Stand up against your boss when he won't give you a raise.
Yeah. Which I don't know if he got a raise at the end of it or if he just took over the company.
Sure. I guess the prince also had a little bit of something where he kind of wanted to bring the two kingdoms back together after Barbie's influence.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of the political stuff in the background is interesting as well for that reason.
Very predictable too, but you know.
Yeah, it's they aren't reinventing the wheel here, but it is more complex than Lady goes into Magic Kingdom and has to solve all their problems magically.
Magically.
Yep, magically. through Deus Ex Machina dancing fairies.
Dancing fairies.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a dress montage in this film as well.
Yeah, that I think I'll talk about that a bit more during the animation section, but
okay.
Yeah, it was a fun little moment, and as far as I can tell, none of those dresses in the montage, except for maybe the first one, were actually ever intended.
What? No, they have to be real dresses.
Well, I think they're based on real dresses. I'm just saying I don't think they were meant to be sold as like Barbie dresses.
They should have.
They should have.
Difficult to make.
Yeah, especially the modern art dress. That was kind of crazy in a fun way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they should make those dresses.
Yeah,
that's the point of these movies, aren't they? To sell toys and the dresses.
So yeah, any other thoughts about the story before we move on?
No. Like I said earlier, it was an improvement, and it was a decent story.
Yeah, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I give it a 3.5 because I'm still judging this as like a normal movie, not as Barbie
Yeah,
exclusive.
I should specify I'm personally judging these as Barbie movies, sort of taking them, what level of quality do I expect from these? But
Mhm.
John is being a bit more tough on these movies. I think though a 3.5 is a very
I'm
fair
s-
rating.
I'm still very fair, but I'm tough.
Yes.
I'm a tough fair guy.
So yeah, let's get into the characters. Um,
Correctors.
Characters, yes. So first up we have Rapunzel,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
who, I mean, she just has a lot to do in this story. She gets to be a more active part. She has her own arc.
She
I
likes
think,
art.
yeah, she has a bit more personality here than Clara did in the last movie. She has more to do, more going on. Yeah, just an interesting improvement
Yeah.
overall.
Yeah. There's more reason for her to leave her home because she's just trapped there. She wants more to her life than just being a slave to her Gothel. So she's a rebellious artist.
Yeah, and her paintings are actually done by their works from Texas artist Amanda Dunbar. So this isn't just, sometimes in movies they have art and you look at the art and you go, is that really all that great? But no, here they've actually hired an artist to do this artwork.
Yeah, which looked pretty good.
Yeah, it's very well done art, and it adds a lot to her character that she's good at art and that she's passionate about it. And then that
Mm-hmm.
the art becomes her salvation,
Mm-hmm.
that she's able to defeat Gothel and prevail because of the art.
The art of magic art.
That is when she was painting with the magic paintbrush, I was kind of thinking, that paintbrush is doing most of the work here.
I know. I was like, man, that's a beautiful painting. It's gonna suck for actual artists when they have to do all this work, and little Rapunzel here just thinks of it. And there it goes.
Yep.
She'll probably even make more money out of her art.
Yeah. When she sells the mural, once Gothel has passed away, she can
Gothel.
sell because it's the
You're
artwork
giving
is
the
up in the
credit to
tower.
Gothel.
No, the artwork is up in the tower.
Oh.
So
I
once
mean,
Gothel has passed away, she could go back and.
she can go back in anyway.
Oh yeah, I guess because it is never release your prisoner with a lying
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah, but she can also just bring in the Shiv. But that's a different story.
Somehow I don't imagine Rapunzel and the magic shiv. Maybe. I mean, the paintbrush looked pretty sharp at the end. You could stab someone with that.
You could. Yeah. It's a silver hairbrush as well. You could have been very slappy. I'm disappointed that she didn't use the hairbrush as a hairbrush.
Yeah, and that's honestly, I think, the big interesting thing that they do with Rapunzel as a character is her hair doesn't matter in this movie.
Nope.
Like it's a bit at the end when Gothel cuts it off and uses it to pose as Rapunzel, but it's not. She isn't using it to bring people up into her tower.
Yeah, like
except for the dream sequence.
But when the princess was like falling into that random hole, and like she was like, I can't reach. I was fully expecting Rapunzel to throw down her hair as a rope, but they didn't do that. She just could suddenly reach again.
Yeah. And I honestly think this has more in common with Cinderella than with Rapunzel.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't mind. I think the story is interesting enough that it justifies that.
Sure, yeah. The differences aren't too drastic.
Yeah. So yeah,
just stylistically.
Yeah. Next up, we have Penelope, who's the young dragon character. I have down here that she should have been more annoying, but
Correct.
she really isn't.
I was thinking like, oh no, why do we have this random dragon here as a friend? But then like as soon as Papa Dragon came in, I'm like, what? This character has more relevance to the story. Neat. Then I was more invested in the character because of her shows.
Yeah, and she has the biggest arc in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
You really do feel for her, and I think a lot of that is the vocal performance, which we'll talk about further down.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a great character all around. I like. We'll talk about it a bit more in a second, but I like her dynamic with the rabbit. Even though the rabbit by himself isn't that interesting of a character,
no, he's not.
They have some good banter. Which
the rabbit's just there to be the comedic annoying character.
Yeah,
who likes to eat.
He's more of the traditional animal sidekick. I did note, I think the most interesting thing about him is if this movie were made today, Awkwafina would play Penelope and James Corden would play the rabbit.
That sounds about right.
That's the kind of character we're talking about here.
Even though I think Cree Summer would still be the better choice.
Yeah, I like Awkwafina and Cree Summer both as actresses and as voice actors. But yeah, I think Cree Summer does a really good job in the role of Penelope.
But like that's honestly, we'll talk about Cree Summer later on. But yeah.
Next up on our character list is Prince Stefan.
Stefan.
I found him a little bit boring. Maybe less boring than the Nutcracker, but still a little bit boring.
He's a bit boring. He's just there to be the guy who likes Barbie.
Which that's kind of what all of these princes in these stories are coming so far.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping at some point we'll get a romantic interest with actual interesting character traits.
I doubt it.
But I mean, also these are movies made about Barbie.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the other solution would just be to cut the prince character out altogether. Though this movie, you need something motivating her to get out of the tower.
Yeah, because it can't just be to find her family. She has to hook up with the hunk of man.
And there are like cultural precedents for that.
Sure.
For a very long time, especially in sort of romantic leaning literature, if a woman ended up at the end of the story unmarried, it was seen as a sad ending. Where I think hopefully as a society we've progressed past the point where marriage is seen as the be all end all. You're successful if you do it, you're unsuccessful if you don't. But
sure.
Apparently these Barbie movies haven't yet gotten to that point.
But Barbie herself, I don't know if she's married.
So next up on our character list, unless you have anything else to say about the riveting Prince Stefan.
Nothing about the character, more about the animation.
Okay. We have a much more riveting and exciting performance. We have Gothel. Well, once again, the villain is the best part of one of these Barbie movies. I think, luckily this time around, everything else is at a similar level. Gothel is just lots of fun. I like her backstory. I like that it's more complex than she was a mouse who decided to be evil. This time there's a little bit of story behind there. It's maybe a bit of a cliche story.
What? She was a mouse?
No, the Mouse King from last movie.
Oh, okay.
Didn't have much in terms of backstory.
I was thinking, like, did I miss something?
But yeah, I also think I just want to shout out the character design. Very angular, and yeah, she looks like an evil stepmother.
I mean, I wasn't really in love with her design, but the design really, it does exactly what it's trying to do, make her look evil and stepmotherish, but it's also very cartoonish in a way that none of the other character designs matched.
Okay. I enjoyed that it stood out a bit, but I could see where that would.
Right. I mean, it's fine. It took me a little bit to get used to it. It's like, that's a weird design next to Barbie.
Yeah, that's fair. Also, I should mention this is a movie that I've watched, just like The Nutcracker. I've watched it quite a bit
Mm.
as a kid, so a lot of the stuff, weird things going on, are just things that oh yeah, that's what's in this movie. I
Right.
can't necessarily look at it from a more detached perspective. But yeah, I think
Sure.
the fact that we don't have much to say about Gothel is a compliment to the whole movie.
Mm.
Because last episode we talked about the Mouse King quite a bit, and that was because he was the most interesting part of the movie.
And it was Tim Curry.
Well, we'll get to the voice actress for Gothel, but yeah, this movie is such an improvement over the last one that there isn't really a standout character quite to the same degree. But yeah, on that note, we can move on to Otto, the Gothel's hench weasel slash
I
otter.
I had no idea what this creature was. I'm thinking, is this a weasel, ferret, otter? I don't know. His name's Otto, which makes me think of an otter, but he looks like a weasel.
Yeah, vaguely rodent,
Yeah.
long rodent.
Rodent scarf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also vaguely Eastern European.
Sure.
That kind of maybe tipped over a bit into the offensive side.
Yeah, sure.
The accent work wasn't the greatest.
No.
A few words were overpronounced a little bit.
That's just the Canadians
Yeah,
trying to
it,
sound that way.
it's a wacky accent, but I do think the character is a lot of fun. He
I
had
still don't really care about this character.
I thought he had a few good moments. I was definitely rooting for him to eat the rabbit.
Sure, you were.
I mean, the rabbit wasn't that interesting of a character.
No, but like half of Otto's jokes were, "Can I eat the rabbit?"
I mean, yeah, that's fair. I was still rooting for him to take a nice big bite of hobby,
Oh, I'm sure you were.
eat some hoppy pie.
Gross.
The last major character we really have to talk about is Hugo, the elder dragon. Very Shrek-like design.
Mm.
I've only seen bits and pieces of Shrek, but the dragon design reminded me a bit of that dragon.
Hugo's a strange name for a dragon.
Definitely. Hugo is a very strange name for a dragon or a doctor.
That would, yes, he would be a weird dragon with the glasses and the mustacheless beard,
Yeah, yeah.
trying to find out Batman's secret identity, all that stuff.
Yeah, maybe that's Hugo's real motivation throughout this movie.
Totally is.
Never seen Batman and Barbie in the same room.
We can. It's got to be a crossover one day.
Call Matt Reeves up. Tell him we have a Batman sequel idea.
An animated movie. We can do it.
Yeah, get Robert Pattinson.
Why not? If the Ninja Turtles can cross over, so can Barbie.
I do think there is actually a Barbie superhero movie.
I'm sure there is.
Well, we'll get around to that eventually.
Everyone's have a superhero movie at some point.
But yeah, Hugo is an interesting character. He has an arc in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have too much to do, but I do like that he learns to see things from Penelope's perspective. I always think that's a good thing in these kids' movies, to have the adults realize when they're wrong.
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, overall I gave the characters a 4.5 out of 5.
I gave it a 4.
Yeah, very similar scores there.
Mm-hmm. Going back to Stefan.
Oh, yes, yeah.
There's a line in the movie where he's talking to his dad about Rapunzel. And he's like, this girl, she likes me for me, not for my crown. And like, when I heard that, I'm like, okay, who are you? Who are you? Who's your personality? I don't know. Why does she like you for you? I don't know. I don't think that's the reason. I think she likes you because you look nice.
Yeah, the there's not much personality going on.
Mm.
The movie doesn't like him for anything but his crown.
Right. Right. I mean, it's a nice line, but it doesn't really fit.
Yeah. So yeah, we have similar scores for the character. That's good to see that you're getting on the same page as I am, or maybe I'm on the same page as you are.
I mean, they're good. Animation.
Animation style this time around, I do have to mention last episode I was watching on the DVD copy that I had, that my family's had for many years, and
Generations.
yeah, this time I was watching. We didn't keep our Rapunzel DVD, so I was watching the version available through Vudu, the
Mm-hmm.
streaming service, and I think there might have been something up with the transfer because the animation looked lower quality than the previous movie, just in like it all looked fuzzy and the colors were off.
Mm.
And I've looked up clips on YouTube, and I think there might be an issue with the transfer. So I am taking that into consideration with my notes on the animation. But yeah, I thought overall the animation was a slight improvement, not leaps and bounds, but
No.
the characters are more expressive, the colors are brighter, there are more interesting locations. I think the manor and the dark forest are just the coolest things ever.
Yeah.
I would live in that house. I love the color palette of it. I love how it's creepy and spooky, and
I
yeah,
mean, I'd like it for the secret tunnel.
yeah. And of course the paintings on the walls that Rapunzel has.
That too. A lot of paintings.
Just what 10 out of 10 location. A lot of the movie is set in that location, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is a smart choice because the real world is less interesting. They've taken away the 2D backgrounds and replaced them with, that Windows desktop of the hills with the sky.
Yeah.
Just like the most boring thing you could ever see. There's no features to it at all. It's just kind of there.
Sure.
It didn't impress me to the same degree as the castle or even the 2D backgrounds from the last movie.
Yeah, I think the 2D backgrounds in this one fit the animation better, especially when they were mixing the map painting with the 3D models. They look better together.
I'm hoping, obviously, as we go along, the animation will improve. But yeah, I'm hoping there's at some point the 2D or the 3D backgrounds look better than in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the magic though that Gothel uses, that was fun. It's sort of this green, smoky, swirly stuff.
Right. I mean, yeah, very cool. Comes out of her fingers. Good lighting. Neat.
Yeah. The lighting in this, I think, was also pretty good across the board. Especially the manor's just like such a great location.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned something about the motion capture and specifically the fight at the end of the movie.
Yeah. When that fight started, I was looking at how in the last movie whenever the characters were sword fighting, the animation looked weird. It looked like they were still working out the motion capture or something. But here, it looked clean, but the actual choreography looked really good as well. So I was wondering if they were capturing something.
Yeah, and there was motion capture used for the animation here. I would guess that the fight scene is one of the things that was motion captured. Yeah, it looks definite improvement on the fighting from the last movie.
A huge improvement for the fighting. It looked really good.
Yeah, and I wonder if since they
I was in shock when watching that scene. I was like, whoa, this looks really good.
Yeah. I wonder if since they weren't rotoscoping ballet performances, if they had a bit more time.
They probably did.
Put it to the fight scene.
Yeah, you were talking about character design or something?
Yeah, I like the character design. I think even Prince Stefan looks better in this than the human prince in the last movie looked. There's a bit more personality there. even though
See,
the writing isn't any more personality.
when it comes to these past two movies, I noticed that Barbie's character model is a lot more put together versus the other characters. There's more detail and thought put into her, just not just like her design, but the way the models just move and work. Versus everyone who's not Barbie or Penelope, just they didn't look right. So Stefan, I thought he looked, ugh. All the other characters just looked bland. Like if they weren't the focus, which is Barbie, then they didn't have as much effort put into them.
I mean, that's fair. I think especially the like background characters don't register at all. I think the character design for Hobby is incredibly disturbing. Like
Yeah.
he looks like an old man rabbit, which makes it very weird that he's hanging out with Barbie and Barbie's young dragon friend.
Like I think he's like a chubby old man in a bunny suit, but he's tiny.
Yeah, like we said, James Corden would play this role if they remade this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree that a lot of I just really like the dragon designs here, and also I think Gothel and Barbie both have interesting designs. So yeah, overall I would give the animation a 4 out of 5. I believe that's similar to what I gave the animation for the last movie. It again, even for 2002, it isn't stellar animation, but you know, these are direct to DVD Barbie movies. I believe they had 9 months to work on this one.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell that there are some production constraints and that things could maybe be a bit more polished, but there are some really good scenes in this and designs, and like you said, that fight choreography is really great.
Yeah, the fight choreography alone brought this up to like 3.5 for me.
Next up, we have the voice acting. Last episode, we went through most of the voice actors. I think this episode, we're just going to kind of highlight a few of our favorites.
Sure.
We do have a few returning cast members. Kelly Sheridan is obviously the big name here. The
voice of Barbie, of course.
Yeah. Again, she's giving a really great Barbie performance. She's exactly the kind of voice you want for this.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have any major notes on her performance.
Yeah, no. Just the same as before. She does a good job at making Barbie likable to everyone.
The other performances I want to spotlight, first up, Angelica Houston as Gothel, which great casting. First off, if you're looking for the female equivalent to Tim Curry, Angelica Houston is a great choice. Very, very similar careers, somewhat. She's also well known for playing villains, but also has probably most well known for playing Morticia Addams in the 90s Addams Family movies. She's done a lot of work with Wes Anderson. I think her favorite role, and I don't know if it's still credited as this, but in Isle of Dogs, she played, and this is the exact role she played, mute poodle, and in parentheses, voice. That's my favorite credit ever. Great little
best one.
Yes. But yeah, she's giving this. She's hamming it up. She's having a great time. She delivers these spells with the right sort of gusto. Her never release a prisoner with a lying heart. It gets repeated multiple times, so she makes it compelling. And great evil laugh as well. She really sells the gravitas of this character.
Yeah, no, I didn't really think much about her performance because she just fit the role of a evil godmother. I didn't really think about who was voicing her.
Yeah, I think Angelica Houston has a less distinct voice than Tim Curry.
Of course.
So I think that is part of why she didn't maybe stand out as much as Tim Curry did. but I think she's doing a great job bringing this villain to life.
Right. And talking about characters with distinct voices, we have Cree Summers.
Yes, as Penelope. She's the reason that Penelope as a character works. She has such a voice that really adds this layer to the character. Only other vocal performance I can think that reminds me, well, maybe some of Awkwafina's work, because Awkwafina has a similar voice, and also a bit of Anton Yelchin in From Up on Poppy Hill. All these sort of, I don't know how to describe their vocal quality.
Yeah,
I know that
yeah.
is a word for what I'm looking for, but
there's like a scratchy peakiness to their voice.
Yeah, probably a bit like what my voice sounds right now since I'm sick.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Cree Summers has worked on a lot of things. For me, she's one of the most distinct voices to ever pick out. Like, you can instantly tell it's her, just based on her performance. Because her voice is just very unique compared to other people. So
she's doing great work here.
She's just really fun to listen to as well.
Yeah, and she makes you feel for Penelope. She sells the emotional moments. And she takes this character who could have very easily been the most annoying character in the movie and turns this into a full character who you understand her arc, you understand what's going on, you understand her struggles. Yeah, that's all. I think a lot of that, or perhaps all of that credit goes to Cree Summer for her incredible performance here. Were there any other vocal performances that stood out to you that you wanted to talk about?
There's none that stood out to me. Mainly just Cree, because she's a bigger known actress, especially in the cartoon world. Like almost every cartoon you've seen in the 2000s she was in. It has a major role. I don't know if you've seen Clifford. She was Chloe Poodle in that show. That's what I remember her the most. Otherwise, she's also known as mainly known for Number 5 and other characters but whatnot. But yeah, no, she's done a lot of work.
Yeah, I did want to briefly mention Peter Clemaeus as Otto, who we already kind of talked about, where he's the voice feels like it should be offensive, and it probably is. But also he's doing some
Otto.
He's doing some very weird things with his voice, and it makes the jokes that he has land.
I have no idea where her accent is.
Yeah, I put down vaguely Eastern European. I don't know. It seemed kind of like it could be any accent.
It could be.
Like you could tell me it was supposed to be a Mexican accent, and I would go, that probably makes as much sense as Eastern European.
Yeah, I was thinking that or Spanish.
Yeah, just kind of a vaguely non-Anglosphere accent. Overall, I gave the voice acting a 4.5 out of 5, but actually, I'm going to raise that up. I did give the voice acting last time a 5 out of 5, just for Tim Curry, and I think this time for Cree Summer and Angelica Houston, I have to raise it up a point.
Okay. I gave it a 4 out of 5 because it was great, especially with Cree Summers.
Very, very good all-around work with the voice acting. Now on to the music. I don't have too much to say about the music. I did like this time around that they have more of an original soundtrack. The music that plays whenever Barbie's doing, or Rapunzel's doing her magic, was nice. I don't think I would listen to it on its own, but
no,
as well. You have sort of these pastoral, beautiful. There's a little choir singing in the background. There's also some strategic use of classical music, most memorably in the fight scene that we were discussing before. And then this is actually the first Barbie movie to have its own original songs. One is Constant as the Stars Above, which is sung by Jessica Brown, and that plays in the actual movie, a short segment from it. And
when her brush turns into a thing.
yeah,
Her hairbrush turns to a paintbrush.
yeah. And it's a nice little lullaby. Again, it works really well in the scene,
Mhm.
but I don't imagine I'm ever going to listen to it on its own.
No, no.
Yeah. And then the other original song is Samantha Mumba's When You Wish Upon a Star, or not, sorry, Wish Upon a Star, which to me, I don't dislike the song. It felt a little bit out of place
When did
as
this
the
play?
credits song. This is right as at the end credits.
Oh, I didn't really
Um,
listen to that.
yeah, it's a little more modern than anything else in the movie, but it wasn't a bad song or anything. Again, not something I would listen to on its own, but that's more just because it isn't my style. It's not the quality of the song.
Hmm. Yeah, no, the music works. Overall, I did enjoy the beginning with the music because it gave you a peaceful atmosphere when it went over the landscape. Yeah, I don't have anything negative or to say about it. It just works.
Yeah, I gave the music a 4 out of 5. I'm not a big music person, so I can't really comment much on the quality of any of the individual pieces, but I thought it worked well in the movie.
Hmm.
Oh, should mention that the score was composed by Arnie Roth and recorded by the London Symphony Orchestra. I believe the last movie the London Symphony Orchestra did as well. Those
Okay,
ones, the Tchaikovsky pieces, not original songs.
of course. Yeah, I also gave it a 4.
Okay. So on that note, final thoughts. What are you thinking about Barbie as Rapunzel?
Again, overall, I thought it was a pretty good, decent film. There's one segment in the movie where Gothel dresses up as Rapunzel, tries to trick Prince Stefan. During that entire sequence, I was thinking that Stefan is an idiot. He's blind because, one, this is an old lady that he's following. I know he's following the hair, but if he just takes one good glance at her facial structure, that's clearly not Barbie.
Yeah, yeah. I think the masked ball kind of helps smooth that over. But yeah,
No,
she
it
has
does
she
not.
has such a distinctive face that
Like, I don't care if she was just wearing a mask. Like, if you, that woman's much older, and look at the angles on her face. Just, that's not going to be Rapunzel.
yeah, that's fair.
But besides that, it was,
Yeah, definite improvement on.
yeah. Looking at our percentages for all the average of what we have with our score here, the total of my score ended up being 19, which was 76%, and a 5-point star rating of 3.8.
I just updated mine, so I have out of 25 possible points, I gave it a 22. That's 88%, or on the 5-point scale, 4.4 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is as a Barbie movie, which is how I'm ranking these. This is pretty good.
Yeah, it is a pretty good score to have.
So our total average is 82% or 4.1 out of 5.
Yeah,
Beating out Barbie and the Nutcracker.
of
We'll have to
course.
see where it ends up in the rankings. I suspect this is going to be one of the higher up in average point scores, but we'll see.
We'll see. We could be surprised by whatever other thing they're doing. I don't know.
Yeah, you never know. These Barbie movies can surprise you.
I find out what I'm watching the week of. So,
Well, yeah. Any final thoughts before we close out?
no, I think that again, this is a big improvement of the film. It has an easy to follow story with characters that make sense and have their arcs. So it's a good job for a second film.
I would agree with that. I think they've obviously learned a lot of lessons from the previous movie and really done a lot of work to apply them. on that note, thanks for listening, and you can find us we're on a bunch of social media platforms. Twitter is at Binging Barbie. You can go to our link tree where we have links to our Letterboxd and Instagram accounts. Go follow us there. Send us a comment or something. We love hearing back. And yeah, join us next week when we figure out what is up with Barbie in Swan Lake.
What is up with that?
Is it good? Is it an improvement?
Why is there a swan full of lakes?
Guess we'll have to see.
See ya next time.
Bye.